Hello and welcome, I'm Maginpanic and today I'm gonna do a breakdown for this ghost dog animation that you see right now. I wanted to do it for a so long time and I haven't, I don't know why. We're gonna start with a long 7-minute work lapse and then like another 5 minutes deep dive into the source file. Let's go! Before I even start, please, Jan de Prevel was the guy who drew this on his Instagram and I picked up this animation like I did typically. Just I wrote under his image that it would be great if I could like animate it, and he agreed to that, and then he sent me his source files. What I did then, I simply cut everything into the separate layers. As you will see right now, I cut everything into separate layers and I detached everything and put everything on the separate layers. I obviously have to draw a couple things that wasn't on the picture because it was behind something, so that was a tiny little tweak. Then once I had everything separately, I could build, as you can see, this small tiny bone structure and I could start animating. I will talk deeper about it in the deep dive of the source file. For the tail animation, I simply created it frame by frame and then I tried to snap it, this curve deformer, to my frame by frame animation, and it required lots of tweaks, but at some point I was happy with the result. Then I started to animate legs. And for this deformer, as you can see this small red dot, I'm always creating those tiny little markers and I'm trying to match them frame by frame to the thing that I want to snap them, and at the end I'm just deleting them and that speeds up the workflow. Then I just created the outline of everything. As you can see now, everything worked because it was connected straight to the bone structure which was moving. And then I connected the tail to the bone structure and everything kind of worked. Then I created this outline outside and I started to play around with the cutters to cut the things that I didn't want it. For the tail, as I said, I connected my one drawing to the tail and I drew another layer just to kind of know where everything is going with the tail. I wanted to be as close to the design as it's possible, so at the third pass of this animation I was able to start creating actual frame by frame animation over the drawing that I just did frame by frame in the second pass. That was straightforward as always. It required just a little tweaks after everything, and once it was done, once I was happy with the result, I created the outline and I was able to start animating the rest of it. As you can see, just this a little splash, I created another layer to finish this splash, a little bit something on the ear that was just floating up and disappear, a little tiny thing here that was floating up and disappear as well, and a little tiny thing on the back leg that was floating up and disappearing as well. Once I had this done, I was able to start drawing those bubbles inside of the character. Everything was on a separate layer and I just patiently draw it frame by frame. As you can see, 30 frames on twos, so just 30 drawings, 60 frames long, frame by frame, one by one. The entire thing contains like a 60 layers, I guess 52 or something, and my idea for this was to create 1, 2, 3 of them, and then when I started to create more and more of them, I kind of wanted to not float all of them without a reason, but actually put them in a places where there was a free spot for them for sure, but once they was kind of colliding, I wanted to create as much interaction as it's possible. So this stretching here a little speed up. Everything was because I found something that might be colliding or something, and all those tiny movement was not unreasonable, and I really tried to find those reasons for every single bubble, to not just put them together. As you can see, this small bubble was in between those two bigger, because the tension of everything should put this in between instead of throwing it inside. I wanted to keep that as much 3D dimensional as it's possible, just to give depth to everything. In a second you will see that after I drew all of them, I started to split them into the front and back part to give everything a little more depth to the entire animation. I patiently drew the same loop over and over for the next and the next layer. As I said, it was like 52, I guess, 52 layers of the bubbles, and well, that was so fun to create. The entire thing that you are looking at right now took around 10 hours, and if you saw my previous videos about like Bury a Friend or Copycat, which first one took 40-50 hours and the second one around 35, and if you will compare the entire song with this small 60 frame loop that took 10 hours, it's a cool perspective to have. And well, that was a mind-bending situation where I had to completely switch my way of thinking from high polished things into something that's manageable in a fair amount of time. For the tail, it was harder because the tail was moving a little bit faster, so the bubbles was bouncing from one side to the another, and I have to say I had so much fun doing this animation, and those loops inside looks mesmerizing. I really love the result of what's happening there. Then, as I said, I created one more composite here, so I started splitting what will be on the front and what will be on the back, and obviously the feel of the entire character, the color inside was on the back of everything. But let's deep dive into the source file itself. So at the very beginning, as you can see, I started creating this bone structure based on the just a simple separation of the layers here. The entire bone structure, as you can see here, is not very perfect, not very precise. It will not allow the character to move, because if I will use the toe, everything will move, so I will have to rebuild everything in order to make the animation. I simply wanted to achieve only the idle. So it's not built for walking, although I'm thinking about it still. So as you can see, it's just a simple bone structure, which is not very perfect. If you will see here, everything might easily get destroyed. So I did it especially just for this idle animation. I love this breathing thing here. I'm really happy I achieved that, and a couple people actually noticed that tiny movement, tiny breathing. I really love that. For the tail, it was tricky. Everything here was pretty tricky to create a really fluid animation. Once I had that, I started to adding, as you saw on the work labs, every single part of the character which looked like this, and then I started to cut from one to another to actually don't have those lines inside of the character. Let's look at the back leg here. I cutted it from the torso. Let's take a look on the tail here. I cutted the tail. I cutted the front leg here, obviously, and the torso from where it didn't supposed to be. Once I had this, and it was obviously connected to those layers as you saw on the work labs, I could start to animate everything. So it worked pretty much this way. So yeah, it's just a simple build with just couple layers animated within those build. As you can see, everything is frame by frame. And I don't know, let's take a look for the torso maybe. Within the torso there is this animation of this bubble here, and it's all that was animated here, just this part. So on the every single part, if you will take a look on the head, again it's just animated this part on the head. I had so much fun animating it. As you can see, there's a separation. Every single layer had this on the, if you will see on the drawing layer, let's go on the torso maybe. On the color art there is a fill, and on the line art is just the line. That allowed me to actually separate everything from the color art and the line art, and I could add the glow just for the line art and make those separations and those cuts in the right places. Then let's disappear this fill inside. Then I started adding those bubbles inside. Right now, aside from the work labs, it's cleaned away more just for the sake of showing you how I did it. And also it wasn't connected to anything, because as I said, it wasn't meant to be animated other than just a idle animation. And well, that's sad, because I wish I could animate a walk cycle with this character. I'm still thinking about it. I started to fill in the entire space, as you saw on the wall claps, one by one, patiently, with everything filled in with those bubbles inside, and the effect was pretty stunning. If you will remember about what I said about the correlation between those bubbles, let's check this one. When this one is approaching from the top, this one is kind of reacting on this. I wanted to keep that as many times as I could. It's pretty crowded right now, so it's not so visible currently, but if you will pay a little attention to what's happening at some parts, you will see that this little ball here is interacting with all the other balls around, and that type of interaction was added here and there, so the entire thing, even if it's not super visible, you can subconsciously see what actually is happening, and in this way it's looking way more organic. Okay, so for this, just showing you how it was done, I can render it here, and my render with those glows looked like here, but the end result, as you will see right now, was done by rendering it frame by frame separately on all the layers, which was the line art, color art, the bone structure and the feel, and just adding a little more effects to this. Let's don't forget, and let's show that one more time, Jan the Prevail was the guy who drew this character, which I animated. I really love this artist. Super talented dude. I love this. And let's not forget about the Denis Boyer, I believe I pronounced it correctly, Denis Boyer, who actually composited this animation, which you can see right now. Hope you like it. Hope you like this video, this little breakdown that I promised you a long time ago, which you can see right now. I don't know what will be next. I don't know if it will be a lyric video or what. We'll see. Have a wonderful day, and see you on the next video. Cheers!